All right, so my name is Phoebe and I'm from the community team at Elastic. And what we do on the community team is bring developers together, practitioners, folks who are using Elastic, dabblers, people who are professional Elasticsearch engineers. We bring them together to talk about Elastic and to share their wisdom and knowledge and share stories and tell us about cool use cases that they're doing. So you've come to the right place if you want to learn. And this image here is just kind of like a snapshot of how many user groups we have across the globe. We've got almost 80 around the world, and we have about 50 in the United States alone. So if you are joining us from one part, we're kind of, during this time of COVID, we're not really focusing on our regional chapters quite so much. We're really focusing on just doing virtual meetups since we can't be in person, but that day is coming back soon. Yay, beer and chicken wings, as Sean likes to say. So we will be back in person eventually, and we look forward to seeing you in one of our meetups. But you can go to the Elastic website and find chapters that are near you. Yeah. Other thing I wanted to share with you is that our virtual user group can be found here. Here's a QR code and the link, and this is where all of our upcoming events are posted. So this is a great place to go see the meetups that are happening in the United States. And then the next one over is our Elastic Community Slack Workspace. This is a great place to connect with other people who are using Elastic and make connections. There's also a job board, which is really great. So if you're looking to get a job utilizing Elastic and your experience, that's the place to go. And then lastly, our community YouTube channel is where we post all of our meetups recordings. We typically record all of our meetups. This one is being recorded. And if you don't feel like you want to be on video, feel free to keep your video off or your audio. And you can change your name in your little window if you don't want to be personally identified. No problem there. And we will be posting this video there. So if anybody misses the meetup, they can catch it later at a later date. And that is, I'll throw these links in the chat as soon as we get rolling here. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce Sean Tarasa, who is from our state, local, and education team. Sean, take it away.
Thank you. We appreciate the intro and so much for everyone coming. Our goal is a little different than Phoebe. She's got the whole world with communities everywhere. We're up here, well, I'm in Oregon, as you can see, and Jared and my goal is really to hit the ground running with the user groups so that the day they let us meet in person, we already know who and where we're going to do it at. So this is the first of hopefully many. We're going to start a monthly cadence, just trying to get the local folks together in this kind of a format. Your feedback from this will be great because we want to make sure we're driving content that's important to you, that's going to be relevant. So we're bringing in the right technical folks to talk about features, functionalities, releases, and parts that are going to be right up your alley with your use cases. So to introduce our team, Jared Payne's going to be talking the majority of the time. He's our technical brain. He'll introduce himself in a second. And I'll have Luke Whiteside down there with the smiley faces. Go ahead and introduce himself. He's our user success manager.
Yep. Hey, everyone. Probably received emails from me over the last couple months. I'm new to Sean's team here on the user success team. I work with users no matter where y'all are at on your Elastic journey. My job is to help you find success. Whether that's on a basic tier, whatever your use case, I'm here to help you find the content you need. So don't ever hesitate to reach out if you have any questions.
Fantastic. And throw your email in there, and that way they can reach out to you as needed, Luke. So with that, as I said, our goal is really to set up a regular cadence of these. We wanted this in a regular Zoom format so you guys could come off mute and ask questions and we can have a conversation and you can just ask us things. If we don't know the answer, we have no problem telling you we don't know the answer. And we'll go find it for you. And, maybe that's something we can turn a session out of in a month to come or a week to come from here. So we'll be putting together more of these. And like I said, your feedback will go a long ways to helping us deliver the right content. With that, today we're going over the 7.11 release, some of the major updates. Jared's going to take very high level, give you guys the once over, and then again, come off, ask questions, and we can dive into any parts of it that are relevant to you. So that being said, Jared, go ahead and introduce yourself and slap some education on us here.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming. Really appreciate it. As everybody said, can't wait to see everybody in person. And hopefully it's soon. I can only stare at my walls for so often. I used to be on airplanes quite a bit, and I used to be all over the United States. So looking forward to seeing everybody here. With that said, we're going to talk super high level on version 7.11. Which is the newest and greatest Elastic release. We can dig down if you'd like later on after I give the presentation. I hate death by PowerPoint, so I'm going to fly through this pretty fast. In fact, it's pretty funny. As I was creating this slide deck, I said to myself, I am going to keep this 10, 15 minutes tops because nobody wants slide decks. But as I started adding all the new features in 7.11, like my slide deck kept growing and growing and growing and growing. And I think that's kind of a testament of how much our minor releases here at Elastic really could be considered major releases at other companies when it comes to functionality and features. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and kick up my screen sharing, and I am going to present questions. Let's hold them to the end. Feel free to throw them up in the chat. We would love to have an open discussion afterward as well. So let's get to it. And welcome everybody. Okay, I'm going to present here. Boom. Okay. Everyone see my screen? We're good? Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Okay. This is me. I'm the Senior Lead Solutions Architect. Apparently I couldn't fit Senior Lead Solutions Architect all in one line. Yeah, so I'm the lead for Solutions Architect across the United States. Any questions you need, please feel free to ping me. I can find the appropriate local Solutions Architect for you, or you can deal with me, and I'm okay with that. If you want to connect with me, I have 2 ways of connection. Actually 3, counting my email. So jared.payne@elastic.co. I have a LinkedIn, and I also have a Twitter. Be warned though, I do type some family stuff, send pictures of my daughter on my Twitter. But I also do business stuff as well. So if you want a little personal touch, feel free to add me on Twitter. Feel free to add me on LinkedIn. Happy to talk to you either way. I do a lot of Elastic conversations from both sides of it. But those are the direct ways to get a hold of me. And I hope you do, because I love talking to everybody. All right, it is 3:38 my time. So this is what we're going to kind of go this is what we're going to go through, right? We're going to start with Kibana. We're going to talk about machine learning, what's new in Elasticsearch, the stack and solutions, and then Elastic Cloud roundup. Okay, so first things first. This isn't necessarily new, but I wanted to touch on it. Elastic Agent. It is our centralized way to manage all of your data collection and endpoint protection across the entire Elastic stack. Previously, we had Beats and/or Logstash. Now we have Elastic Agent, Beats, and Logstash. The Elastic Agent contains our endpoint stuff, which is antivirus right now, free, open source, or not open source, but free to open. You can use it anytime you want, and it comes with our free and open download, which you can grab off of our elastic.co website. It has customizable configurations, out-of-the-box dashboards, modules, and it's all managed by Fleet, which is internal to Kibana. With that said, you may start seeing more and more progression of the Beats functionality move into Elastic as things move down the road. The whole idea is to get a one agent to rule them all outside of multiple Beats. So we're trying to make our ingest process streamlined and easier to use, right? So like I said, the Elastic Agent does include endpoint security, and it gives you deep data visualization, and internally to our SIM in Elastic, it actually allows you to analyze the processes and the actual build out of what happens. So if you open a file, You'll see any spawned file detections internal to that. Internal to that, you can find the hash, you can do the MD5, and you can start digging down for an investigation tool. We support Windows, Mac OS, and Linux right now. So please feel free, download it, play with it. It's fantastic. I have it on all my home computers here at my house. So, and it works fantastically. That's a word, by the way. So yeah, so we have malware protection, right? Auto quarantine, zero system impact. Please take a look at this. But the whole idea is that it's fantastic. So let's talk about Cabana 7.11 and what is new. So alerting. Alerting has been in beta for the past couple releases. Actually, it seems like forever, but everything in COVID seems like forever. But alerting is now GA. So you get, what does that mean? You get full support with it. You can create a ticket if you're having problems, use it all the time. And we now have an action alert type with Microsoft Teams as well. So we have, it's GA production support, right? You can now group specific alert types all in a group field. You also have a fired versus recovered alert logic as you're going through your connectors. And then, like I said earlier, we do have a Microsoft Teams connector as well. Anonymous access. This is a big deal. In fact, everyone was asking about this over a course of a period of a long time, right? So why it matters, because what you can do is you can allow people to go into your Kibana cluster without having to create a username, password, and role. And everything is completely accessed through role-based access control. With that said, it does not come default out of the box by anonymous access. You have to enable it yourself. So it kind of brings that whole security perspective in to where when you stand up your Elastic cluster, you use Elastic Cloud, you have to enable the anonymous access, so you don't have to worry about it actually being there. Audit logging, phase 1, which would mean there's going to be another phase on top of that, but I can't talk about features. Let's talk about phase 1 right now. Why it matters, because what you could do is you can support your organizations with compliantary and regulatory needs, which means that a specific audit or a specific user has access a index pattern, right? We are going deeper in rebuilding our audit logging phase. Everything that you do internally to Elastic is created and written to an index. We're taking that another step further by allowing you to stream it, get your audit logging down, and be able to actually set actionable alerts on top of that as well. So it's a big deal for Elastic. Let's talk about drill downs. I think this is the coolest feature that we have in 7.11, even though there's a lot of cool features, but I've always wanted this ever since I've been using Elastic since like 2014-ish, 2015. Our drill downs are now GA, which is fantastic because when you have a bunch of visualizations in your dashboard, you can now pivot by clicking on the dots and then re-clicking on URLs. You can click on a discover. You could dig down deeper into that specific visualization and all of a sudden drill down into it, which is a bigger deal because now you can have actionable results based upon actionable items of your data. And here's again, more stream down drill downs, right? So you can stream your work down, your workflows, allow for direct hooks to other critical platforms. As you're seeing here, it's a big deal when it comes to drilling down. Let's talk about maps. So maps, there's a lot of stuff in maps. So we created an Elastic map server that allowed you to create your maps and bring them online. We have geo content, tracking layers, and layers by styling percentage, and we'll go into that, right? So Elastic map server, what it does is prior to this, we kind of hosted the Elastic map server. That was it. We did it. We had it all ourselves. You connected directly from Elasticsearch into the Elastic map server. But now what you can do is you can actually grab that Elastic map server and host it internally. Therefore, if you are on an air-gapped environment, you no longer have to go out and actually connect to an Elastic map server, pull down that information. You can have it internally locked into your air-gapped environment or wherever it is that you're using on your internet. So tracking layers, right? So you can visualize routes and maps as things go along. This is a really important feature. So there's a couple of clients that I have talked to in the transportation industry that say, we love your Elastic maps, but we want to be able to map and route things out as they go along. So we've been working on this for a while. So we're finally able to track our layers, especially bring these over based upon GPS, sensor data, and everything else that goes along with it. And then before, you used to be able to style your layers, but now we introduced a style by layer in percentiles. So you can say between 10 to 20%, I want red. 20 to 30, I want blue. 30 to 100, I want yellow. So it gives you flexibility on your colorization on your maps, and allows you to break things down by percentiles, especially when you're dealing with analytics and data forecasting for data aggregation. Cabana Lens. I love Cabana Lens. I remember when we released it, I was at AWS reInvent, and it was the day before, and I was on booth duty at AWS reInvent in Las Vegas, and they were like, hey, we just came out with Lens. You need to start showing it. Congratulations, it came out late last night. And I was like, all right. So I had to spend the day like going through it, figuring out, but it took me less than 30 seconds. That's how easy it was. You literally find if you haven't used it, you literally find your field, you click on it, you drag and drop in the middle, and it builds out a visualization for you. We've done a lot of enhancements here internally to Lens. So this is really the default visualization tool for Kibana and for Elasticsearch. It's just super easy to use, super quick, and you can add it to your dashboard right away. Tagging in Cabana. This is a big deal. Everyone asks like, well, can you tag things? And prior to this, it was like, well, yeah, you could tag things on ingest, but now you can manually tag things in Cabana. So as you're going through here, right, you can tag them and assign to save objects. You can manage all of your tabs in one centralized location with their tab management, admin, console. Then you can assign and delete them in bulk. So tagging is great for when you're trying to organize your content. And then especially when you have 5,000 servers or 10,000 servers going around, you want to break these tags down by groupings or even IP addresses without having to create a query or a filter. These are fantastic and an easy way for you to get actionable items very quickly. All right, so machine learning. Machine learning is fantastic. So what's new in 7.11? Space-aware machine learning jobs, new transform, which is latest, which is really cool. And then data frame analytics, UI maps, and visualization. So our machine learning, we have two types. We have supervised and unsupervised machine learning. So that's what we bring directly in Kibana. The one thing I do want to point out is that if you've never used our machine learning, a lot of other companies, you have to deduplicate your data or duplicate that data into a specific or another space, right? You have to move it to the cloud to use their machine learning algorithm or their machine learning time space or jobs or detections. Here at Elastic, we keep all of those indices and those machine learning jobs in your Elastic cluster. And so technically what you're doing is once that data is in Elastic, you don't have to make a copy of it. If you stand up a machine learning node, which is just an Elastic node, but machine learning set true, it can just go ahead and run those analytical jobs directly on that Elasticsearch space without having to duplicate and or go out. And that's a big differentiator. In fact, when you couple that with the speed of Elastic, it really makes the person's job that has to deal with data a lot easier. What we did is we were able to manage machine learning jobs per space. Prior to this, you could not, right? And so you can add machine learning jobs to each individual space now, as opposed to just making them universal. With that said, if you're not sure what the space is, think of space as your entry into Kibana. So you have a team of people, and each team member does something different. And each team member wants their own dashboard. Well, instead of just logging into Kibana and everyone has a free-for-all, you create their own spaces for everyone. That way they can build their own dashboards, have their own space in order to be able to do their job for their respected roles, right? So the one thing is that be aware that calendars, filter rules, and interface models appear in all spaces as opposed to breaking them out now in 7.1. Okay, transform type, the latest. This is cool because now you can get the most recent event that happened in your machine learning job, right? So it allows copying of the most recent document to a new destination index, And then it's great for grabbing that latest state. So, you know, the latest transactions of a, I don't know, like an e-commerce store. Not that many people here do e-commerce, but I mean, the whole idea is that you can get the latest transaction for a specific transaction in your agency or your university. And that type of stuff allows you to create these transform layers in machine learning to get the newest and greatest. So data frame analytics. So now we've introduced the UI mapping. So it actually gives you a visualization of the jobs and the indices, the transforms and that models of that specific thing. And then it actually removes having to track these versions as they go through, which is something that you had to do as these dependencies were being built. You had to take a notepad and like track them, but now you can visually see them directly into the machine learning UI map. It's almost like a like the APM service map, only for machine learning. This is still experimental. It's in beta, but I mean, it's just mapping anyway. So if you're using this and you see a problem, hit the F5 and refresh. It probably may fix it for you. All right, so data visualization, the table view. So this is cool as you're going down, and you can actually see the distributions and your visualizations in an easier and more navigation spot as you're using machine learning. So you can dig into your details easier, as you're seeing on the right-hand side with the actual motion. You can click on the drop-down. It'll give you all the data. You could see what the top values are and then what the calculated risk score is according to that data that you're ingesting, which is actually pretty cool. So now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the Elasticsearch and what's new in Elasticsearch. First things first, big deal, searchable snapshots. So it's now GA. It was beta before in 7.10. Now it's GA. Let's talk about what searchable snapshots is. Prior to searchable snapshots, we just had snapshots. And we're not going to confuse those snapshots with like a snapshot from like NetApp or VMware or wherever it is that you're doing from an administrative level. The snapshot from an Elasticsearch perspective is that you're grabbing all the searchable data internal to Elasticsearch. You're snapshotting it, you're grabbing it, you're making a copy, and you use it for long-term storage, which is fantastic. But what if you need to search on that data? So what you would have to do, if you weren't using the cold tier, you would grab the snapshots, reload it back into Elasticsearch, and then you would be able to search on that. Well, now what we do internally for searchable snapshots, if you want to use that outside of the cold, you take a snapshot of it, put it in a repository, and then you can look back on unlimited amounts of data as long as you have that snapshot. So it's now going to be powering our cold tier and soon the frozen tier. But the whole idea is that you can keep data even longer for less expensive for those that have like federally mandated like 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 year retention. So the cold tier is now GA in Elastic Cloud. It wasn't prior. You only had hot and warm, but now you have a cold tier in Elastic Cloud, which is fantastic because in the warm tier, you need to keep a replica. Whereas in the cold tier, no replicas are needed. Just takes a copy of it and moves it over into the actual cloud or the cold tier, and you're able to search on that. So you're really necessarily cutting your Elastic Cloud cost in half. So you can see the cold tier of us versus the AWS Ultra Warm. Not sure if you are aware of the AWS Ultra Warm part of it, but you could see how the cold tier and the AWS tier, they stand up side by side. Schema on read. This is a big deal. Everyone was looking forward to this for quite a long time, and internally it was a pretty awesome like movement into when we were going to get there, and we're finally seeing the light of this, right? So schema on read versus schema on write. So schema on write, it's made for speed, scale, relevance, right? And what it really comes down to is that you're mapping your data before you getting into your data store, Elastic, and then when you're searching on it, it already knows where your fields are. And so it doesn't have to make those mapping connections. Whereas schema on write is more so like, schema on read is more so like get your data in as fast as you can. But when you're going back through your stuff and you need to search on it, it needs to make those mappings in the back end. So you're taking a little bit of time on schema on read up in the front to make it super fast when you're trying to find things. Whereas schema on read, you're not spending much time up front at all, but you're spending a lot of time when you're trying to map it when you're searching for it. When it comes down to like security or even observability, schema on read's kind of a hindrance. And the reason why is because if you're trying to fix something that's broken, the one thing that is really going to be a problem is speed. And so that's where schema on write really comes in. But now we have the flexibility to give you whatever it is. An example would be runtime fields. So let's say you get an index and you ingest it into Elastic and you've already mapped it, but your mapping's wrong, or you want to add some new fields, or you're not sure what you need, but you need to add something. You can add our runtime fields, which is pretty much a schema on read. And what you're doing is you're adding new fields to that document. Previous to this, you would have to re-index your index into Elastic. But here with runtime fields, you can actually just add your stuff on the fly, which is pretty cool. So runtime fields in an index template, right? You're gonna be able to get your runtime field as you're mapping it or as you're creating. And as you're seeing on the right hand side, we're just creating a new field, adding it into your indice, and then saying, let's go. It's as simple as that, right? So schema on read, what it does is it really just gives you that flexibility of adding and changing fields to an already mapped indice that you've already done. So audit and security configuration. We are almost up on 20 minutes. I apologize. I told you there was a lot of content in here, so I'm going to try and go as fast as I can. I know nobody likes death by slide deck, but now users can get high-level auditing security features without capturing a request for a body call, right? This is a pretty important because you can create, delete users, change passwords. All of these, each entry really just identifies that relevant detail that you really need to find when you're auditing in security configuration changes internal to Elastic and or Kibana. It gives you that extra layer, that extra visibility of what's really going on in your environment. EQL, Event Query Language. So it's GA release. We've had this in beta the past couple of releases, but I believe, and don't quote me, I think we stole this from the in-game acquisition. When we got in-game, we used their EQL, and we noticed internally that it was really important, and it was really awesome for creating query languages just by like modern processing English. So if you have any questions or ideas or interesting use cases for EQL, reach out to Seth Payne at elastic.co. They'd be more than happy to help. But miscellaneous query optimization, right? Testing EQL rules and detection, like if query is this, then go do something, right? And these are really important when it comes to our SIM and the detection rules. Let's talk about the Elastic Cloud, right? So data tiers, we talked about the cold tiers now, but this is how you're seeing the cold, the hot, the warm, and the cold tiers. You can easily scale from hot to warm to cold, and we'll talk about it in a second. But then sign up and log in with your Microsoft account. So previous, we only had Google and or creative or just create your own account, right? Use your username, password, and register. Now you can do with Google. Now you can do with Microsoft. So actually, I think that's close to it. What I want to say here is we have a public sector event, and I don't know why it says federal, but that should be. It's not federal. It's state and local. I think this is the slide that they gave us, but this is 100% state and local government as well as education. It is completely free, and it's on April 14th, not 13th. And I believe if that QR code works, I used it earlier, and it points right to this right here. So feel free, take a screenshot. Please register. It's absolutely free. We're going to have a great number of speakers. County of Salt Lake is going to be talking about their security use case. OHSU is going to be talking about their use case. Arizona Department of Administration is going to be talking about their use case. We're going to have an open roundtable from multiple people across the United States as well of how they're using Elastic and some of the problems that they're running into just from not only a budget, security, but data ingestion standpoint. It's going to be a fantastic event. I really hope you can make it, because we're putting a lot of time and effort into bringing content specifically for state, local, and education people that use Elastic. So with that said, I was right around 22 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. So that's the slide 7-11.
That slide is what happens when I have one job. I have one thing to do. Put one slide into your slide deck, and I mess up 3 items on one slide. But that's okay.
Yeah. No worries. Yeah, they. I was told that there was a typo in it afterwards, so not a problem at all.
Fantastic.
I threw the link in the chat for the Elasticon, and so yeah, you can use that link to go directly there and register.
Awesome.
Terrific. Awesome. We had some great questions. One, I think that we can kick off a discussion with, and again, anyone who wants to come off mute and answer other than Jared is happy to jump in here. So Grasshopper said, having an inspiration, a friend, yes, true, a friend, indicated they'll be working on a data project involving millions of records. They're not sure exactly what type of records. Is Elastic up to general task of being able to work with millions of records?
Yeah, the answer is yes, 100% absolutely. So not only millions of records, but Elastic does petabytes at scale. And I'm talking 5, 10, 15, 20 millions of records, even higher, billions of records, hundreds of millions. It's built for that specifically, right? Dealing with records, querying those records, getting any type of data types that you need, structured, unstructured data into Elastic, and being able to grab that data, that log aggregation, and be able to build on top of that. So long story short, answer is absolutely, Elastic is good for that.
Elastic also powers the search bar on Wikipedia, so that's another example of our scalability.
Yeah. So let's talk about that really quick. Thanks, Luke. That was actually a really good point. So Elastic really, it's like speed, scale, and relevance is really the backbone of what Elastic stands for. And Wikipedia is an example of just that power, right? I mean, so we power Wikipedia. Somebody told me it was only 10 nodes of Elastic, which I find pretty amazing on that. So if you see all the changes that are going on with Wikipedia, and not only that, but all the searches, I mean, I go to Wikipedia all day long. It's just fascinating that they run that on Elastic. Not only that, but I mean, other companies like Uber, right? We connect you with, you're using Uber, we connect you with the car. Think about all the data points that have to go through there. The car GPS, just the IP of your phone, like your rating of your person, and then the rating of the driver that you need. And then does he fit the car stop ball? And the list goes on and on and on and on and on, right? Those data points have to be aggregated and then and then it has to be connected. And then your car and your person have to be connected all within seconds. I mean, imagine going on Uber and you waited 20 minutes for a car, if there are cars, right? I mean, it's not a very good user experience. You'd leave and you'd go somewhere else. With Elasticsearch, they make that speed layer possible. And then another point to this too is like Netflix. And Netflix really uses Elasticsearch to power that correlation and search aggregation of all of the titles, persons, people, Rotten Tomatoes, all of the quotes. So if you go to Netflix and you type in John Travolta movies, you're going to get all the John Travolta movies, and you're going to in the snap of a finger. And so think about all those data points that it's got to go through and search. We really are able to power that.
Great points there, Braden. Yeah.
Yeah. So Braden, he said he has 88 billion logs. That's yeah. And Braden, how many nodes are you on? Are you on 20, I believe? Wait for him to respond.
All right, I can just unmute for that one.
Oh, there you
go. We're running 18 nodes with 3 masters at the moment.
Okay.
So I know those 9 months ago logs are a little slow, but got to save that money somehow.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and now with searchable snapshots and everything you retain for super long periods of time. let me see their X database type people, and I thought they would be best served by something huge and interesting, awesome. Yeah. So one thing about Grasshopper, back to that point, we do have a JDBC connector that allows you to connect directly into any type of database, as well as an ODBC connector and JDBC connector through Logstash2 as well. I was working with a state agency that ingested 55 million lines of SQL tables into Elasticsearch, and they were able to cut their search time down with even just a wildcard aggregation filter from, they were doing a name search. So it went from 3.5 seconds on the legacy database that they're on to under a second for a name search on wildcards with Elastic. So 55 million records, and they were able to speed up their time by a third. It was pretty impressive. It was only 3 notes.
Another good reason for the conference there, we have Alex from Oregon Health and Science University doing a presentation on what he's done with Elastic, ingesting their net flow from everywhere. I mean, it's so much data that's coming in, and he needs sub-second response time from it. And so it's a great use case to hear about the power, the speed, the relevance, and what capabilities Elastic can bring to your environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he built it all on BASIC. It's cool.
Mm-hmm. Without our help. Jared came in after the fact. He's a smart guy.
So it's funny. I was having a conversation with somebody today, and they were saying that they were running Elastic, and they wanted to make sure they got the SIM associated with it. And there's been a little confusion because a lot of companies don't give out their SIM for quote free. We're here at Elastic, we do. So obviously you can go and tie it in with machine learning, which is a platinum feature, searchable snapshots, ECK, which is also an enterprise. But the whole idea is that you can get that kind of holistic 360 view of your entire environment when you combine your endpoint data, your logs, your metrics, and then get that high fidelity data, right? Like really start cutting down on your logs and figuring out like what's important and what's not important. And then you're left with that high fidelity data that you can actually start digging deeper into. And that makes, threat hunting even better. I think a long time ago, when we talk security, or even just like logs aggregation and like APM or observability, right? It was about, nobody had anything. So let's just get everything into one circle, certain place, and then hope that we can grab and create a dashboard and find some analytics on top of that. But as these legacy vendors never changed, there became this point to where just having the data and looking at it is not enough. So in the case of security, it went from knowing your data to now being like proactive instead of reactive. And so I think with SIM and how it's correlated directly into Elastic in our open and free model, it allows you to be more proactive, right? You're able to dig down deeper into the things that are really important, and then have a response that's fast. And I think that's a big deal. So I was having that conversation today. I thought it was pretty functional to where like Elastic is, and how we've really gone the threat hunting model, as well as the stopping model for when it comes to security. Question: is there a public roadmap for the Elastic agent? Unfortunately, there's not a public roadmap. That is something that we have been working on. In fact, even internally, the roadmap changes a lot, only because they want to make sure that it's working and viable. I know because it's beta, there's a couple of things that are having a few problems right now. I know one of them is like ingesting the Google Workspace API. There was a small bug that prevented the API call to go out. That's going to be fixed in the next minor release. But we really need to make sure that anything that we put out from an Elastic agent standpoint is stable, and is going to work properly. But back to the roadmap question, I haven't seen a roadmap, not here internally to Elastic. But I know that it won't be long until it hopefully gets GA, and whatever that is, because it's gonna make my life easier when it comes to data ingestion, to be honest with you.
Fantastic. Were there any other questions anyone had?
Yes, Braden, I feel you, man. The single agent. I'm waiting for a UI on Logstash too. That way I can like drag and drop my stuff. But I've been waiting since 2014. Now that I work for Elastic, I haven't seen it. So
yeah. I guess one other thing, we could ask to you guys, I see the SIM sounds way cool. That's something we could do a session on to dive into from a technical perspective. But what could we bring to these user groups that would be relevant, help you guys in what you're doing, other than what's just changing in the solution? We can bring in product management and deep dive into things for you.
Yeah, that's a good point, Sean. So please put in the chat or get a hold of us and let us know like what you'd really like to see in these user groups, because when it really comes down to it, the community is all about you, the people that join these meetups, and your involvement in them. And I don't always like to like sit up here and talk about Elastic, right? I mean, I do, trust me, I look and I work here and I love it, but I want to hear your stories. Like, I want to know what's important to you. I want to know what we can focus on. I want to know what would benefit you, even if it's just an at-home lab, right? That kind of stuff. Or if you have something really cool that you've done at home or even in your work and you want to show off, let me know. We'll have you give a presentation here, like super 5-10 minutes, so we can do an open discussion and have conversations of that, right? We really want this to be a stage of like, you did something cool, let's show it off. So it's not necessarily what we can bring to the table. It's also like, let's see what you can do too. I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, so please let us know.
Yeah, I added the link to our super short survey, really short survey. Really shouldn't take more than a couple of seconds, but there are spots in there. If you want to speak at a meetup, we would love for you to let us know about it. It'll get directed to me and then I'll reach out to you. And I'm also going to throw our direct community email in there in case you want to just email us. You don't want to have to go through the survey form. So yeah, I wholeheartedly concur with what Jared just said. We're always looking for folks to speak, and it could be any amount of time. It could be a 5-minute lightning talk. It could be a full hour presentation. It really depends on you, but it's your stories that what other people find interesting, not just us telling you about what Elastic does. And Indira just had a question. I'm always confused with Elasticsearch and Kibana. So that is actually a really great question. They are two different features of our stack. And I'll let Jared kind of dig in a little bit more about what the difference is between Elasticsearch and Kibana, but they are different.
Yeah. Yeah, let me see if I can pull something up for you real quick. Give me 5 seconds. Okay. I think this will work. I think this will work right here. Where's it at? Okay, cool. I am going to share my screen again. And go here. And let's go here. I'll present this. So, as I stated before, we have 3 solutions, right? Search, observability, security, and they're all powered by one stack, which is also called the ELK stack. Elasticsearch, Cabana, Logstash. Kind of now called the Belk stash. Beats Elasticsearch, Cabana, ELK. Difference between Cabana and Elasticsearch. It's all one stack, right? But they're separate pieces. So think of, we're going to start at the bottom here. So Beats, Logstash, those are your ingestion tools. And then there's Elastic Agent. So this slide's a little bit out of date, but let's just call Elastic Agent is here. Eventually it'll be added to this bottom piece. So you have your ingest tools. These ingest tools get ingested into Elasticsearch. So think of Elasticsearch as the brains, as the database where it holds that data. That's going to be the processing power of any type of data that you're going to get in. So it's going to be, think of it as your quote, your database. It's where it's going to do all the calculations. It's going to do all your indexing. It's going to do all your sharding. That is where your data is stored. So on the Elasticsearch level, that is where your data is stored, processed, queried, everything else. That's where the power is. Kibana, that is your UI. That is your graphical user interface into your data. So technically, Kibana has connectors into Elasticsearch that allow you to search and visualize the data that Elasticsearch is building and storing. So did that make sense? Did that help answer your question? At least give a little bit better understanding? Sweet. Okay, looks like, let's see, where's Grasshopper? Any examples of using Elastic with CIS security controls? So I know like SOC Prime uses us. There's a lot of examples of like Elastic with CIS security controls. Off the top of my head, I don't have any, but I'm pretty sure if we do a quick Google search, you probably can find quite a few and or a bunch of examples of using Elastic with CIS security controls. Absolutely. Grasshopper, I apologize off the top of my head. I don't really know, but I'd have to do a quick Google search for you, and I could probably find some, or at least take a look in the back end and see if I can find any of those too as well. Yeah. And like I said, feel free to ping me as well. I'm happy to help, and I can get you kind of like migrated into the right direction if needed.
Yeah, it could also be a great topic of, alerting and data ingest based on NIST framework, CIS controls, all of that. If we could find a resource internally, or if somebody out in your user groups are doing something like that, obviously we'd love to hear about it and share the story.
Yeah, absolutely. I know 7.11 from a security standpoint, we integrated MISP, which then MISP integration, which then grabs like sticks and tags data as well. So the MISP integration, it was huge in 7.11. I absolutely forgot that in the 7.11 slide deck, which I find is pretty important. So a UI for Grok rules in Logstash. Yes, that John. That is what I'm looking for. So a caveat is that you could actually, inside Kibana, there is a Grok parser in the dev tools. So if you want to test your Grok parser, see, Braden, there you go. Yeah, you can actually use the Grok parser inside of dev tools to take a look at it. In fact, that's what I use before I move it into my Logstash pipeline. It's just quick and easy, and it gets to the point. But yeah, Elastic Agent and Schema on read, that would eventually replace Logstash pre-ingest field composition. I don't know. I don't know if it would replace it, because I know a lot of people really like the Schema on write because of the speed ingestion on it. So I don't think it's actually, I don't think Elastic Agent and Schema on read would replace Logstash. But the one thing that Logstash has that like Elastic Agent does not have is the ability to enrich that data, right? And or add or remove fields, use different filters, Jdbc connectors, ODBC connector, like all the type of filters that come with Logstash. And not only that too, but a lot of times from a security perspective, they don't want your agent, or a lot of people don't want their agent directly talking to their Elastic Stack. Which is I find fine, but a lot of tight-knit security engineers, they really like to have that separation, right? So they'll use like a Beats or Logstash agent, a Beats or Elastic agent. They would ingest it into Logstash, and then Logstash should be that aggregator internally between their actual machine and their Elastic use case. And in between that Logstash, they would enrich that data, use GeoIP, latitude, longitude, add extra tags, the stuff that they're not grabbing internally from that local desktop. That would be a big deal. So to answer your question, I just don't see it actually replacing. For threat intel matching, any preferred direction, threat intel, or ingest Logstash MISP, or search with threat intel rule in SIEM, or both? I'd say both. So here's the deal. There is talk about adding a direct threat feed internal to Elastic. I don't know if that's going to happen, but what I would do, you can always do correlation rules internally to Elastic to help you with some of those threat feeds that you've ingested. You can absolutely use a log stash and then search that threat intel rule directly in the SIM using our correlation rules. That way you can just go ahead and break those in. Yeah. And that should be able to help you with a lot of those intel matchings. We're doing it a lot internally, and I've seen it work quite a bit. It's pretty straightforward and easy to do, aka SolarWinds. Yeah, SolarWinds. Make sure you use Elastic to search your SolarWinds instance to make sure that it's not compromised. Use cases in vulnerability management. Any use cases off the top of my head, I would have to take a look at. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of vulnerability management that I could use, but yeah, there's Vuln Whisperer. I'm sure somebody's doing it somewhere out of there. I don't know of anybody in my accounts that are using it. Nessus and Elk. Got it.
I just found one, a use case from Deloitte that mentioned vulnerability management in there. So I just dropped it in the chat. Might be worth checking out. Dirk also suggested that we potentially showcase some interesting use cases at future meetups.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty cool idea. I've also got tons of use cases. So Dirk, if you want to let me know specifically what you're interested in, I'm happy to help you find them.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to do interesting use cases. And as well, like I said, if you have an interesting use case that you're using right now, let's do it. Let's do a 5-minute roundup talk on it. Cool.
Hey, I just like sitting here and you guys all chat in the chat box. It works out fine. Keep the conversation going one way or another.
Actually, I'm gonna bust out of the chat box because it's faster to talk.
There you go.
Hey, so the Elastic agent, so that's kind of interesting. So that's pretty much a consolidation of all the beats. Then is that?
Yeah. So that's pretty much where it's going eventually. I haven't heard that beats are going to be replaced. I really don't know, but I mean, if you read between the leaves on a tree, right? I mean, I think that's where a lot of the integration is going to end up going. I don't see beats being viable in the long term if the Elastic agent starts having all of the functionality that beats is going to give you, right? I mean, why would I want to install 3 different beats on a machine when I can just install one agent and have it do everything that I need? Right now, I think it's a little too early to tell, but I really think that that's the way that Elastic is kind of migrating towards, is the one agent for everything.
That kind of makes sense. And then it's still Go based.
Yes, absolutely. It is Go based still.
Okay. Yeah, I use the, so I got a Puppet deploy that ships all the beats out, and I got the beats talking to Logstash, and then I'm using Logstash to kind of parse out the error logs. I guess what do you call it, schema on, right? So I extract all the fields out because we have a mod security is sort of on the side there too, and that's where I spend a lot of time writing a bunch of custom rules in Logstash to store it in. And then, like I said, I mentioned Waza, which is sort of it's like an intrusion detection kit. It was based off of, I forget some SecOps stuff, but they have some plugins. But then I'm always kind of cautious about people managing my Elastic stack, so I'd rather figure out what they're doing first. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm an old gray beard.
So Waza, ASU uses Elastic and Waza together, and they seem to do a pretty darn good job of it. So if you ever want to talk to them about setting it up and what they did, let me know. I can make that connection for you. Absolutely.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah, anytime.
I got about 5 minutes left. Were there any more questions we can answer? This was great.
Yeah, if there ends up not being any more questions, I just want to say this is the first meetup that I've done since quarantine started in March. So it was nice to actually it was nice to talk to everybody and have a conversation that didn't involve a demo or troubleshooting. So I welcome. I'm really looking forward to the next meeting and having a deeper conversation, and we'll be more refined and have some use cases and come up with a pretty cool topic for everybody.
Yes, just a quick clarification. So the machine learning, so that's in GA now, or is that a license option?
Yeah, it's okay. So machine learning, it's been in GA for a while now, at least as long as I've been here in Elastic, for about 3 years now. But it's a licensed product in our Platinum.
I appreciate you guys all joining and giving us a Zoom session where we can actually chat and field questions, not like a normal webinar where we're just presenting to the world. So hopefully many more of these to come, and soon in person, because yeah, we love conversations, we love questions, and you never know where the conversation is going to lead.
All right. Well, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you, everybody, so much for coming and for all of your thoughtful questions and the conversation in the chat. My hope is that we'll get you to show us your video so that we can be face to face. It's always funner, and I am all about personalizing your Zoom because it is just goofy silliness. We don't have enough of that on a daily basis. So yeah, hopefully in the future, we'll see you at a meetup and you'll be wearing a mustache. And again, comb through that chat. There you go. Come through the chat and grab those links out of there for the survey, Elasticon, public sector, and we will see you at our next meetup. Thank you, everybody.
All right, everybody, take care.
Have a great night.
Thanks, guys.